Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report, I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We'll be joined by Congressman John Conyers in a few minutes, but first we turn to look at the most expensive congressional race in U.S. history, the race for the 6th District in Georgia. On Tuesday, voters will head to the polls to fill the seat left vacant after Tom Price resigned to become Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Well, polls show that the Democrat, Jon Ossoff, and the Republican, Karen Handel, are in a virtual tie. Civil rights leaders fear that racial voter suppression tactics could cost Ossoff the election. We turn now to a report from investigative reporter Greg Palast.
I'm here in Georgia's 6th Congressional District, where 6,000 very proud, very patriotic, and very white Georgia citizens are celebrating. Republican candidate Karen Handel, basking in Donald Trump's endorsement, is working this crowd, which has little sympathy for Democrats.
Thank you so much.
That's who lost the war for it. Jane Fonda's and that group, they're whole lefty, and they had the media too, and lie, cheat, until we had drug problems, baby killers, that was all lies.
So just a quick question. This is 30-year-old Democratic candidate Jon Ossoff, who fell just 2 percentage points short of winning this race outright in the first round. This should be an easy win for Ossoff, but some experts fear skullduggery.
To be very clear, Jon Ossoff would be the congressional member right now. He really would have won the previous special election, but for a combination of systemic voter suppression tactics and techniques.
Dee Hunter is director of the Civil Rights Center of Washington, D.C.
The district itself was gerrymandered. The Republican leadership have been very clear that they gerrymandered this district in order to ensure that it would be held by a Republican.
And the gerrymander was overtly racist.
This is Laughlin McDonald, who is attorney for the ACLU.
The chair of the House Redistricting Commission, and he says, quote, "I am not for drawing nigger districts," end quote. That was his quote. And that's what the court of the D.C. 3-judge court cited to support its finding that he was a racist.
So how did it happen that a Democrat is favored to win the Georgia district racially gerrymandered to give us Newt Gingrich? The answer's here in this newly built African-American church. In the past few years, there's been a huge influx of African-Americans, Asian Americans, and Latinos into these Atlanta suburbs. So how could Ossoff lose given the new racial map of this congressional district?
And we talked about voter suppression. For a lot of my
Pastor Lee Jenkins warns the congregation about the threat to their rights.
There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes where there are tactics to suppress votes.
Voting rights groups registered literally tens of thousands of minority voters, but strangely, the voter forms simply vanished.
We registered 86,419 voter registration forms.
How many again?
86,419. There are 46,000 of the folks that we've registered who have made it, and 40,000 of them are missing. And you know what they told us? We don't know what you're talking about. What forms?
You mean that the 40,000 of the voters you had registered, mostly minorities, just disappeared?
They did not disappear.
Ensei Ufot of the New Georgia Project.
With all 4 of my eyes, we walked into county boards of elections, county boards of registrars, and seen boxes of voter registration forms waiting to be processed.
And if you complain about the missing voter registrations, you could face criminal felony charges, and your group could be destroyed. 3 years ago, I visited the group registering 10,000 Korean voters. I met their director, Helen Ho.
Asian Americans nationally are the fastest growing electorate, and our, political power is growing.
They called it voting Gangnam Style.
Vote Gangnam Style. Vote Gangnam Style.
This past week, I went by their office, but it was shuttered and empty.
Is this one right here?
Gone. Nsé told me what happened to them.
And so there was a campaign to register them, and they started registering significant numbers of Korean Americans. Their registration forms weren't getting processed. So they sent a letter to the Secretary of State and said, hey, here are all these people that we've registered to vote. They aren't on the voter rolls, WTF. And they never got a response from the Secretary of State. And the next thing you know, there were folks from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation coming, seizing their files, requesting correspondence, basically kicking in the door and shutting down their operation.
Georgia GOP officials dropped all threat of criminal charges after 2 years. But by then, the group was put out of business. But even if you get your name on the rolls, GOP officials may simply erase your name through a purge called cross-check. Georgia has a secret list of an astonishing 660,000 suspected double voters. We got our hands on a copy of this list. According to the cross-check list, Maria Isabel Hernandez of Georgia is the same voter as Maria Cristina Hernandez of Virginia. The list of accused voters was created for Georgia by this man, Chris Kobach. Donald Trump just appointed this same Kobach to head Trump's Voter Integrity Commission.
The commission is looking at more than just the 2016 election. It's looking at the entire issue of voting irregularities and fraud and registration problems. So
I tracked down the Republicans' congressional candidate, Karen Handel. She was happy to talk with me about Democrats stealing votes.
Do you think the Democrats are going to try to steal this election by having illegal voters?
I think that they are pulling out all the stops.
I wanted to know if the GOP really found illegal voters or merely purged dark-skinned innocents.
Do you think the Republican Party stealing the election by eliminating voters of color from the voter rolls? You were Secretary of State. You used the system cross-check, which eliminated a lot of voters. Is the GOP trying to steal it?
We use a system of cross-check to make sure that illegal voters are not on our rolls.
Did you find any?
Yes, in fact, we did.
Did you arrest anyone?
As a matter of fact, several people were brought before the State Elections Board.
Fact check. Georgia did not convict a single double voter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Then it turned weird. Her goons blocked me.
You don't have to push me.
And grabbed me.
You bet.
Just one more question. The Republicans have tried to.
It's a memorial day.
Are you muscling me? Don't do that. I don't think assault should be the new Republican method, assaulting reporters.
Then I tried to ask the Republican about the raids on the voter registration groups. This was the answer.
USA! USA! Get out of here, liberal! USA! Get out of here, liberal!
Back at the Eagle's Nest Church, the congregation refuses to go back to the way it used to be, with an election decided not by the voters, but by Jim Crow.
This is Greg Palast for Democracy Now!
Greg Palast, an investigative journalist, author, and director of the documentary The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, joining us right now by Democracy Now! Video stream for a brief follow-up. The significance of this election and what you found, Greg.
Well, the most dangerous thing is that they are rolling out brand new Jim Crow tactics designed by Chris Kobach. He's been put in charge of the Election Integrity Commission, as Donald Trump calls it, to hunt down illegal voters. We know that there are no illegal voters, that it's almost a non-existent crime, but they are using methods which actually pull hundreds of thousands of voters off the voter rolls, legal voters. We're estimating, I started this investigation for Rolling Stone, and it looks like in Georgia, 50,000 people were removed from the voter rolls being accused of voting twice, a second time in another state, yet not a single conviction, and that's mostly voters of color. And you heard that there were 40,000 names that were supposed to be added to the voter rolls, many in the 6th. They have not been added. They won't be added in time. 10,000 Korean voter registration forms. That group was based in Georgia's 6th congressional district. This is going to be a Jim Crow election. It's going to be very tough for Ossoff to overcome this type of tactic. And I'm worried that it looks like this is going to be the pattern that the GOP is going to use nationwide.
And that election will take place on June 20th next week. Greg Palast, thanks for joining us, investigative journalist, author and director of the documentary and book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy.